hop right into the next video. So what we did last time is we created this player, and when I press WASD, my player can move around in his environment. Right now he doesn't have much of an environment. All we did is we added one little white square that I can move around relative to that white square. What we're going to do this time is we're going to introduce tile maps, and we'll start building out some generic, map for him to walk around in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my hierarchy, and I'm going to create a new object by right-clicking in my hierarchy and going to 2D object, tile map. And I'm going to make a rectangular tile map. This is going to make a grid. If I go to my scene, I'll be able to see that grid. So this grid is like a chessboard. We see that grid. That grid is going to be where my tiles are contained. My tiles are going to allow me to very quickly draw a 2D map, and lots of games use tile set systems like this. Games like Stardew Valley, games like Titan Souls, if you've ever played that, that's less popular. But tons of games use this system. Before we start painting on our tile map, we need to build a tile palette. I'm going to go to Window, 2D, Tile Palette. This tile palette tool is really useful for allowing me to draw maps in a 2D game. The first thing I need to do is create a new tile palette. I'm going to name it, I'll just name it, 2D palette. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to save it in my assets folder. Now, I don't really want to see this palette too much. I'm just going to throw this into settings. I'm going to throw my volume into settings. I'm going to throw my input system into settings. And I'm going to throw this render into settings. That's just a bunch of stuff that, Unity handles until maybe I'm ready to build. I might look at some settings, but that stuff I don't really need to worry about while I'm building out my game. When I say build, I mean make the final push to whatever I'm creating. Doesn't matter. So we built a 2D palette. We called it 2D palette. Now it says drag tile sprite or texture assets here. So I could get a tile set online. We might do that next lesson. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it tiles. And I'm just going to create my own really, really, really maximally basic tiles. And the most basic tile we can make is if I just create a 2D sprite square. And I just create, let's say, a square. Yeah, let's just a normal square. Normal square. It's a perfectly normal square. Now, if I drag this square into my tile set, I can save this square in tiles. I'm going to name this one grass. And it's just a white square. Now I can paint this white square all over the place. I could paint my map with this white square. And it's called grass, so maybe I'll make it green to better represent that it's grass. And maybe I'll just fill in these gaps really quickly. So I'll have this little green spots walk around on. I actually don't like this color of grass. I think it should be more of like a light pastel grass. How do I get that shade I want? This is all too bright for me. How do I lower the... That's fine. Okay, that's good enough. So we have this grass. Now, a new problem is that it's covering my player. So I need to make sure that the tile map, I'll call this grass. I'll call this tile map grass. I'm actually going to call it ground because we might have, sand. We might have, tiled flooring. We might have wood floors. We might be in a fancy castle. So I'm just going to call it ground. That'll be the ground. Now the ground is on sorting layer default, ordering layer 0. My player is on sorting layer default, ordering layer 0. So I need to put my player up to order layer 1 so I can see him again. And now he has some ground to walk on. Now, this ground isn't very interesting. All it did is it just painted the background with a little bit of ground. We will do a little bit more of that before we move on to the next tile set. So maybe we add some different biomes. Maybe instead of just grass, maybe I drag in another one of these squares, and I name this one sand. And maybe I drag in another one of these squares, and I name this one, let's say, dirt. And sand should be yellow. And dirt should be brown. And now, in my tile set, I have these different colors that I can paint with. So maybe there's like a desert up here. If I wanted to make that much more quickly, maybe I can do one big thing and then fill it in with a paint bucket. And maybe this is my desert biome over here. Maybe I start drawing some dirt over here. Maybe there's like a line between the grasslands and the desert. Maybe there's like a Sahel region here. Google it, it's in Africa. Maybe it's like slightly drier, but not quite a desert. Who knows? I could do all sorts of stuff with this. And that big gap, let me fill that in with brown. So now I have my game. I have different colored grounds that I could use. And I could walk around and explore that area. Cool. Now there's nothing I can collide with yet. So let's add some walls. So this is called ground. I'm going to create a new tile map. I'm going to go to my grid, and I'm going to add another tile map, and this one I'm going to call walls. So we're going to go to 2D object, tile map, rectangular, and I'm going to call this walls. Now my walls tile map is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to click on my walls tile map, and I'm going to give it a collider. I'm going to give it a tile map collider 2D. Now what that's going to do is, let's say I create another tile called, let's say brick. Now I need to make sure I'm painting on my walls tile, and I'll use my brick. I'll make it red. And let's say there's a brick house here. Let's say this is a brick house. When I paint with my walls tile, it's not really showing up. There it is. So walls and ground are on the same layer. Walls should be on top of the ground, so I'll put this to order in layer 1. That looks pretty good. So let's say this is my building. Or actually, let's just say this is a brick wall over here. Let's just say there's a brick wall right here. Let's say it's like a brick wall. It's built to stop the desert people from coming in and raiding the city. Whatever the story is in the game, it doesn't matter. But because this tile map that I'm now drawing on called walls, I had to make sure I was drawing on walls and not on ground. Now, oh. There's a problem somewhere. Oh, I mentioned in my first video. I had put a collider onto my player. My player doesn't have a collider right now. My player goes right through walls because he also needs a collider. Circle collider. So now my player has a collider, and that wall has a collider. So I should bump into that wall when I hit it. I can bump into that wall. And there's a problem. So I'm rotating. I don't want to be rotating. That's not an intended feature of my game. So I will go into my player, and I will go into his rigid body, and I will freeze my rotation by checking this box. Freeze rotation Z. Now when I press play, I don't rotate. Okay. So I can walk around this wall. Not really much to do, but maybe I start exploring, maybe I add some enemies, maybe I start farming. We'll add some other stuff to this game. For now, we can create collidable walls. I'll add one more thing. I'll add a prop. I'll add something I can push around, just because it's simple to do. So we have our ground. We could walk around on our ground. We built another tile set for walls. We make sure that whenever we paint in a wall, we want to make sure we're painting on the wall's tile set. If I were to paint this red brick on the ground, I'd be able to still walk right through it. The ground tiles do not have collision. This is going to be the number one, biggest thing to keep track of, is drawing your levels in a 2D game. You want to make sure you're drawing on the right layer, on the right tile. On the right tile map. Okay, let's add one more thing. Let's just add a random object to push around. So I have my player, I have my grid. I'm going to add a new 2D object. I'm going to make let's say a square. I'll name it crate. And I don't know what I want to do with this yet, but let's put it by spawn. And I can't see it. Let's put the order and layer up to 1. And let's make it brown. Let's make it a darker brown than the dirt. Okay, so this will be my crate. Now, right now, it just sits there. It's just like a normal tile. It doesn't really do much. But if I add a collider to it, let's do a box collider, and I add a rigid body to it, and I turn off gravity, use gravity off, player, I should have gravity off, use gravity, gravity scale 0, simulated, okay, looks good. I put 3D objects on this. Big mistake. If you use box collider or rigid body instead of box collider 2D and rigid body 2D, it's going to be a big mistake. It's not going to work. I only caught it because the options looked a little bit different than what I was used to, and my mouse just died. Fantastic. That's okay. We're just about over anyway. Alrighty, so we have rigid body 2D on this thing that we're going to push around, and we have a box collider 2D. Now when I press play, oh, I think it has gravity on, so it's going to fall down. That's okay. Couldn't quite catch it. Let's disable gravity because this is a top-down game, so gravity should not really exist because it's going to just be pulling us towards the floor that we're already standing on. So gravity in this game doesn't really make sense. Okay, that's a weird behavior. I'm pushing it way too fast. It's way too easy to push around. So let's change that a little bit before we finish. Let's increase the drag. Angular dampening, linear dampening. I think it's linear dampening is the best setting to use here. Let's try 5. I'm just going to play around with it a little bit. I honestly, off the top of my head, don't know whether... Yeah, I think linear dampening should be best. We're going to need a little bit of angular dampening too. Let's do 5 there too. So now I can push this crate around, and it doesn't move much more than where I push it to. It's a little bouncy at first. All right, maybe I will... maybe that's a fine behavior. And maybe I'll increase the dampening even more. Actually, maybe I'll just increase the mass a little bit. That'll make it less bouncy. 6. So that's just made it heavier. I'm going to try 9. I'm just curious. I'm going to try 99. I just want to see how... Okay, so I can still push it, but it's clearly much heavier. I was just curious. All right, let's just leave that at 5, 5, 5. Seemed pretty good to me. So it's a little heavy, not too heavy. I can still push it around a lot, and that'll be my little crate. So that for now, that'll be my first little physics object that we can mess around with. What we'll do next time is we will do a combination of things. We'll create our own tiles, and we'll replace our tiles here with the ones that we create, which is a little more complicated than it might seem. And maybe we'll create a prop to push around like a crate, and maybe we can create a new player. So we'll use some art tools to do that. Okay, yeah, that's going to be it for this video.